Hello, today I'm going to show you how to tear the instrument cluster apart so you can install your Create A Dash. First, if you look at the back side, got these 6 screws here. Remove them and then you'll see how to install the Create A Dash. Okay, now that the 6 screws are out, you just remove by gently pulling the cluster out of the bezel like this. The temperature gauge and the fuel gauge just pull straight out. The speedometer head, you have these 2 common screws here that you have to remove, and that just slides right out. So what you're left with after you remove the speedometer head, the temperature gauge, and the fuel gauge is a circuit board attached to the plastic housing. Just take the circuit board, slide it so it unclips from these retainers here, and remove the circuit board. This plastic housing you can discard. Now if you inspect the circuit board closer, you'll see on the back side you have these 6 pins here. Just take the pliers, gently rock the pins out. These are what were used for the factory fuel gauge and temperature gauge. Then what you will do is you'll use the template that you made of the back side of your housing here, and you'll cut your ABS sheet and drill the holes that match these 6 holes for the mounting on the bezel. So this is what the bezel looks like after you have all the instruments out. You have 5 little plastic clips that hold the front cover on the hood. Remove that. What I did with mine is right in here, I cut this out so I could have the space for my Create A Dash individual instruments. You have a screw here, you have to remove that. What this is for, if you have a column shift automatic, you would have your indicator here for park, reverse, neutral, drive, so on. So you remove this and the plastic piece comes out here. Just like so. Save this piece, you will need it. Okay, so this here is the piece that you removed from your good instrument cluster, and you'll see you have to trim it down so it fits back in to the cluster without getting in, making interference with your speedometer head. Okay, now it's time to label the circuit board. If you look here, I have a red line. This is the ignition feed. I use this to connect my ignition positive to the Intellitronix Create A Dash. This one here is the ground feed. It's body ground, so I strongly suggest that you make sure that the strap that goes between your engine and your body is a good one. Okay, right here, the R, that's for right turn. The L, left turn. So what you do is the wires on the back of your speedometer hook, solder the right turn lead up to here, left turn up to here. This is your high beam indicator. This here is where your temp would go to the old sending unit, so I just wired my temp sensor wire onto here, my fuel sensor wire onto here. Okay, so after you mount the printed circuit board onto your ABS plastic, I drilled a hole through here, and through here to run my leads up from the various gauges. Also, where this hole is here, I marked out on the template that I made. I drilled a 1/2 inch hole. That way, the whole idea of this is just a plug and play with your existing car. So you plug the wiring harness in, and you don't have any other messing around to do, except for these leads here. You have the headlight dimming. This you'll hook up to your headlights. This is signal for dimming, okay? This here is your tack input, and this here is your speedometer input. Other than these 3 leads, and everything else will just be plugged back in. If you notice, I have 2 wires coming out here connected to this. This is a port that was not used on most of the AMCs. I found some instrument clusters that had an up arrow for when you're supposed to upshift. I have one that has, it says check engine. So I decided to do what the factory did and use it as a check engine light. So I have on the main housing here, I have a LED that is connected to this. That is right here. It's for the check engine light, because I converted my 258 in my Eagle to fuel injection. I took the head and fuel injection system off of a 4-liter Jeep. And what this ballast resistor is for is I had discovered that if I don't have this in, if I have no codes, the LED would glow faintly. So I put the load resistor in. That takes care of the problem, because it sucks down the current that would otherwise barely illuminate the LED, which was kind of irritating. Okay, you'll occasionally hear stuff that sounds like I'm in the midst of a terrible, terrible thunderstorm. It's just my 3 and 8-year-old upstairs jumping around, rattling my heat work. Okay, after I got all the gauges mounted, I used 1 long standoff and 1 short standoff, as you see right here. That brings the displays just behind the lens. The other thing that I did is, after I first assembled it, if you notice, there's little foam pieces in here. I could see the solder traces through the lens, and I really didn't like that. So I decided to hide them, and I just made little foam pieces that fit around the displays. That gives it a nice blacked out view. The whites here, I really wish that the plastic would have been molded in black, because you can see the display slightly through the display. So anyways, here's the check engine light that I have on it, and I will show you what it looks like when it's all put back together. If you remember, I said one of the things that you should have for doing the installation is microfiber. I don't know how well it comes through on the video, but there are little dust particles here, so I use microfiber cloth, and I just clean it up. It gets rid of any fingerprints and picks up the little dust particles. So when a display is lit up, you'd actually see them in between the display and the plastic. There's other videos on YouTube where you can see the little plastic pieces. It really detracts from the attractiveness of the gauges. Okay, here you see the gauges again, reassembled. I have power hooked up just for the lights. And here's what it looks like when you turn on the headlights. They dim down. I'm going to have to recheck the wiring for my temperature gauge because I lost the display here and it's reading 5. That happened to me earlier at one point. I have to check a solder joint to figure out exactly where it went wrong. One other thing I need to point out is with your odometer display down here on the bezel, the plastic would actually come up this far, so I just took a filed that down so I can read the odometer. Had to file a little bit on the top so I could get the top part of the display. Also, the bottom hole down here for this is where the clock used to be. The screw is set inside just a little farther on the housing than all the other screws, so I cannot put a screw on the back side to hold the instrument panel in. Actually, I had to trim out this here gets in the way of the circuit board, so I actually had to trim this down to fit here, so I'm not able to put a screw in to hold the ABS in that area. But since it's not going to be visible anywhere, I'm going to use actually what the factory had used on some of the cars to seal the cover onto the front, and I'm just going to use some tape on it to help prevent any dust from getting inside. Okay, as you see, I got this display here taken care of. It is actually something real easy. It's my alligator slip that I use to show for this demonstration. In a second here, I'm going to show you what the left signal, the right signal, the 4-ways, and what the high beam displays look like on here. Okay. Let's see what the various displays look like. That, of course, is the right turn. There's their high beam indicator. I'll explain to you how I made it look the way it does in just a little bit. That is the left. And now when you do your 4-ways, so, how I was able to get a nice blue dot like that, because if you notice when I had it apart, you have a crescent in here. What I did is I took a soda straw and a piece of heat shrink that I put on the back of the soda straw, just so it won't let the light back up, because I really didn't want to have any circuitry or anything else highlighted behind the instruments on here. And I have to say, when it is installed in the car and at night, it is really awesome. I was really worried when I first got the gauges, because I tested each one before I installed them in a circuit board, and I didn't have the shaded ABS in front of them, or the shaded plexiglass in front of them, and they were really, really bright. And I was worried that I was going to have problems at night with having the blindness from it, but they really get shielded down good. When you put the headlights on, it dims it to a real good point. It does not dim the turn signal or the high beam indicator. I really haven't had a problem with the high beam LED being overpowering, and of course you're not going to be driving real far with a turn signal light on, so that's not a worry. It's nice having it bright, so you're not one of these people that drives down the road for 15 miles with your right turn signal light on and then you end up turning left. And also right here is the check engine light indicator. So when I get reinstalled in the car. I'll just turn on the ignition straight so you can see that indicator. There's a few things I wish Intellitronix would have made available for this as an option. I am going to miss not having my clock. They could fit a small clock right up in here. There's plenty of room. They could have used this push button here as the functions for the clock without much difficulty, I would assume. I would have liked to have been able to have dual color LEDs in here. You could program the tack to go from, like, my white display. I hit 4,500 or 5,000 RPM, whatever speed I would select. Then the display would turn red as my warning. I wish that these two bottom displays here were not lit when you're not moving and when the engine is not running. It's just a little personal thing. I do love how the displays for what your gauges are for have are a little dimmer, have a bluish tint to it. It really adds a lot to the uniqueness of the displays. If you notice, these buttons here have a white dot on it. That I put a dab of from a paint pen of white paint on the tip of each one, and I slowly lowered my gauges into the bezel with plexiglass in it, so I knew where to drill for the holes for the buttons, because another thing that I don't think would be real difficult for Intellitronix to do would actually, with the little manual that they give you, have just a template of, like, the 3 1/4 gauge here. You have the square, you have the 4 screw holes for mounting it, and then they could also have another dot of where the button would come up. That way you could actually transfer it to the plexi, so it's a lot easier to drill that hole. Also, if they had a template for these individual gauges of where the 4 holes are, so you could make, if they only wanted to give you one template, that'd be fine. You could copy it, scan it into your computer, duplicate it 4 times, print it off, cut out the templates, lay them down on your ABS, so then you can mark your screw holes. It would make it a lot easier to try to mount the displays. I guess that's really the only criticism that I have for it. I did have to deal with customer service shortly after I got these. I have to say I got good turnaround time, and the only thing about the customer service I didn't care for is they didn't answer the phone. You had to leave a voice message and they call you back, which meant that on my phone I have my phone programmed so any unrecognized numbers, ones that aren't in my contacts, my phone automatically just sends them over to voicemail. So I had to turn that off when I had to leave a message for them, but they did call me back within 10 or 15 minutes. What happened is my tack shipped with out the overlay for this LED here. I said RPM, so I just had a huge white block, but they did send me they call them stencils. I would call them a decal, even though they don't have any adhesive on them. They sent me 2 with the RPMs and 2 with the miles per hour. I just used cut it down to just larger than the RPM, put it on some cellophane tape, taped it onto the LED display. Then I used a black paint pen and blacked in the part that would show the white light coming through. I have to say that for the price, I am extremely happy with this. I like the idea of the customization that you do have with it. You have Dakota Digital. I haven't seen anything of theirs where you can actually do this. Everything is in a case, so you'd have to disassemble it. I wish they did sell these gauges individually and not in kit form, because what I would have kept my old speedometer head, which was only an 85 mile an hour, and I would have gone with using the factory fuel and gas gauge, or gas gauge and temperature gauge. What I really wanted was the tack, and they do sell tacks individually, but they're already in the can. I didn't really want to risk destroying the tack by taking it out of the can that it's in, voiding the lifetime warranty because I had removed it. So I went this route. I'm really happy that I did. That is pretty much it. Thank you for watching, and have a good day. Goodbye. Okay. You may have noticed that one of the optional things I did say that you might need is your cruise control speed sensor. Now, how you would mount this up to the transmission? I had to buy one of the screw-in adapters and the speedometer gear, because on my Eagle it has the Ford style speedometer cable that plugs in to the pinion adapter. So I went and bought a Mopar adapter, and I bought the proper gear, 31 tooth gear with 307 rear end in it. So anyways, what you do, on the transmission, the adapter would have the threads. How I did this is I screwed the Intellitronix gauge speed sensor into the back of this. I bought myself a 1 foot long speedometer cable, which is supposed to go between the speed sensor and the cable coming up from the transmission. And one end of the speedometer cable has the 7/8 inch threads. Put that into the transmission. The other one has the 9/16, I believe it is. Screwed that into here, and voila, I still have my pickup for the cruise control, and I have the speed sensor that I not only use for the Intellitronix gauges, but I also piggybacked off the signal wire on it to go to the ECM to let the computer know how fast that the vehicle is moving. And for those of you who have done the Junkyard Mopar MPFI upgrade to their Jeeper AMC 258, and you have not hooked up the speed sensor wire to the ECM, do it. It doesn't matter how accurate you get it, but that computer has to know that the vehicle is moving. I went from 17 miles to the gallon up to 21 miles per gallon with my car by hooking that up. I was really surprised. You really couldn't tell, but when you pull the plugs that is running that rich, it's really necessary. Like I said, I was surprised. One note I'd like to make is with the fuel sender for your particular vehicle, you have Ford, Chrysler, GM, VDO, Universal, and Stewart Warner. My early AMCs that I have are like the Ford and Chrysler, except the problem is I have 10 ohms empty and the 73 full. I have successfully repaired, or should I say rigged, one sensor or sender by taking it apart. I was able to swap the wires around so I can have it read properly. It wasn't for an Intellitronix gauge. It was for just a cheap old aftermarket gauge. Um, and if you're not sure what you have in your vehicle as far as ohm ranges go, because you may have some other manufacturer, okay? Hopefully it'll fall into one of these ranges here, but it's fairly simple. Um, what you do is disconnect the sender wire from your sender, take an ohm reading on it when you're near empty, and then fill up the vehicle and take a reading off it again. Record the numbers. You should find out fairly close what you are, or you can call up a dealer if you have a fairly new vehicle and ask them what the sending unit uses for ohm value. Most of them will have that information on their computer. They can just pull it up real quick. If you happen to have a vehicle that is a lot older, go to the dealership and ask them if you can look at one of their tech manuals. Tell them what you're looking for. They may even have a tech that knows it right off the top of his head.